Okay, so in today's video, I'm going to be teaching you how the best ways to save ink, because saving ink is crucial. So let's get into it. Okay, so I see a lot of rooms all the time that don't really know how to save ink. They've either maxed out on their ink, not doing the proper stuff, or they have little to no ink, but they've put not a lot of stuff in there because they're afraid of going over the ink limit. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you and teaching you the best tips that I know to save ink in your rooms. So you will be able to have a fully fledged room with only about 50% ink. So you can add a lot of detail and a lot more stuff in there. So, don't mind that. So I'm going to share my first tip with you. So let's get into it. Okay, so the first tip is merging. Merging is definitely key to making stuff in Rec Room, and it's key to saving ink, so let me show you the best example. Okay, so I have these two chairs. Let me show you something about merging shapes. Okay, I have these two chairs right here, and they take up a little bit of ink. So, we're gonna save ink in the best way we can. So merging is, well, pretty much making this a part of that. So the way you can do that is if you select that, options, and merge shapes. Now, instead of me having to select the bottom bit and the top bit, I can just move it as one. So if I were to, I don't know, maybe wanted a stack against a wall, so I'm gonna clone this 4 times. So say I have a stack of chairs like this. It takes up some ink, doesn't it? Well, it doesn't take up 4% ink, but it takes a little bit of ink. So we're going to select all of these and do the same thing, which is merge shapes. That reduces the ink by a lot. Well, it's only reduced by like 0.20%, but like, you get the point. If you merge big things, it'll dim the ink down so much. So I went from 10% ink to 4% ink on this one wall. That was pretty detailed. And merging helps so much. If you don't want to select all of these, you can just merge them, and then I can move them to put them against a surface like this. Just like that. You know, also if I wanted like maybe a group of chairs here, so people can sit on them. Again, that takes up 4.65% ink. We can merge the shapes. 4.46% ink. So you can see how useful merging shapes can be. Obviously I only just like 0.20% ink, but if it was massive structured, it would save a lot of ink. Now, the one thing about merging is there is a certain ink limit. I think it's about 20% ink that you can merge together. So if you have one thing that's 10% ink and another one that's 10% ink, and they're both 20%, you can merge them into one to reduce the ink. But it does have a cap. I think it's 20%, but I'm not sure. So let's go on to the next tip. So the next tip is, hang on, wait, what was it? Oh yes, decoration, environmental stuff. So environmental stuff will be key to making stuff. So I have these chairs here. They are environment. The environment means that I can walk into them, so they have their own hitbox. So, you know, I can actually sit down on them or whatever. But the thing is, again, having them as environment takes up ink. As you can see, 4.66% ink. It does take up ink to have them on environment. So what I would recommend is that you only have certain things environment. So I have these chairs environment, but I have these decoration. You got to think of the things that people will try to interact with, like sitting on a seat. But usually just to have everything set as decoration, usually, because they're not gonna really, if you're making actual good games, they're not gonna parkour on this. Go to there, and go to here. And it's not as if they're gonna go directly through it, but I'll get to that in the next step. So, as I can see, 4.66% ink. If I configure that and make that decoration, 4.46% ink. This is crucial for big environments like this. Oh, I can't configure this, but it's crucial for big environments that you want to build, like caves and big buildings, skyscrapers, whatever, the whole lot. You have to make them decoration at all times. Otherwise, it'll take up so much ink and you won't have any ink in your room. One of my levels for my game is so detailed, but I have it all set to decoration, apart from the floors and walls. This is because it takes up so much ink. I got it from 66% ink all the way to 30 by doing merging and decoration. It is crucial. So let's get on to the next tip now. Next tip is, if you want them to be environment, but you don't want to spend that ink, invisible collision is the best thing. I mean it in the most literal way. Invisible collision is your best friend when making rooms. So, let me show you. So I have these, chairs, but I want to make them environment, but I don't want to make them environment because it takes up so much ink. So the solution is to go to your Maker Pen, palette, and search for invisible collision. I would recommend setting it to a favorite because I always use invisible collision for my rooms. Even if it's for the floor, you can set the floor to decoration and save even more ink, but usually just keep the floor as it is, really. Doesn't really matter. But I want to make these physical. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my invisible collision down here. I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to bring it over here and put it around the chairs. Now it's there, I'm not able to go through these chairs. It kind of it has a hitbox, but try and make it high so people don't stand on it. Unless you want to do invisible collision like this to where people do sit on the chairs. But then that's kind of not optimal. Or you can just do the invisible collision around the chair. Like, put that there. Rotate that to the angle of the chairs. And then, wow, people can sit on the chairs. Or something like that. But invisible collision is so good for saving up on ink. It only takes a 0.2% as well. It does take up ink. But it's worth it from having that big room with 66% ink to having it to 20% and have most things as invisible collision. So, invisible collision is your best friend. Don't overcomplicate things with props going everywhere. So, look, I have 3 stacks of chairs going here. This, even if it's decoration and merged, it still costs ink. So what you can do is not over detail it and maybe delete one to where you have 2 stacks of chairs, all of them 8, and then you can merge both of them so you have a good environment but you save ink. Overcomplicating stuff with tons upon tons of builds and props are just going to wear the ink down. Sure, you have about 200% ink in your room, But a lot of this can be used on just useless stuff no one's ever going to see. So instead of making it 4 chairs, maybe make it adequate with only 3. Maybe make it only 3 chairs. And like I said, merge as much as possible. Merge, make a decoration, invisible collision, and not overcomplicating things. Overcomplicating it, adding props that no one's ever going to see. If you have, not a ladder going up here, but you have tons of props up here that no one's ever going to see, just delete them. It saves so much ink, and it definitely helped me save ink when I was, building. It is a very helpful tip. Don't overcomplicate stuff, but obviously still make it detailed. But if you have props that no one's ever going to see, delete it. It saves ink. So those were my tips about saving ink in Rec Room, and I hope you did enjoy the video. And I did hope you learned something from this, because saving ink in Rec Room is a crucial part. And I don't see creators doing it often enough. I go to all these rooms, and they've got all these props going everywhere, and stuff ain't loading in. That's because it has too much ink. Because they didn't use the tactics. So yeah, that was the end of today's video, and I hope you did enjoy. Hope you learned something from this, and go to saving ink in your rooms. So, goodbye.